Hello, salespreneurs. Get ready to meet Alex Fine. He is a true salespreneur, someone who has spent several years in the B2B selling space and recently transitioned into bootstrapping his own agency. He's been working on it on the side for a little while, and they recently blew up. He left his job, and they've done phenomenal things. Highly recommend giving him a follow on LinkedIn. In this episode, we're going to talk about everything from how he helps early stage tech companies, even larger tech companies, drive really quality leads. He talks about some of the really cool tools he uses and how the power of LinkedIn can really help with your personal brand and driving leads for your own business. So super excited to get into the weeds with this one, but let's get to the show. Hey Alex, how's it going, man?
Clay, it's good to finally speak to you on the pod. I'm doing well.
Good. Well, dude, we just spent the last 15 minutes riffing on some cool stuff, so I'm excited to get this podcast going. But Alex, for people that don't know who you are, can you just give us a little background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the co-founder of Understory. We position ourselves as a premier growth partner for B2B SaaS companies. So think all kinds of different lead gen as well as sales and marketing consulting. And that could be anything from, cold email outreach, paid media, automations, different tools, creating the best tech stack for your company, and then all the way to how to actually close enterprise level deals. So that's what we do. I co-founded that with my business partner, Ali, and we've been doing it for about 2 years. I've been full-time at it for 6 months now, give or take, but I've been doing it pretty intensely for the last 2 years.
That's incredible. So mostly as a side hustle for the last 2 years, or sorry, for about a year and a half, and then the last 6 months you went full time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really started to take off since it's been full-time, and it's been, kind of what I always wanted for my career, and I'm finally getting to actually do it. So it's really refreshing. It's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, and I know you've been in sales for what, like 8, 9 years?
Oh man, making me feel old. I don't know, maybe
I mean, I'm
let's
there with you,
call
so
it about 7 years. Yeah, about 7 years.
okay, cool. And so then you were in that for 7 years. Had you tried to start other businesses, or what kind of like led to you starting Understory?
So I've always been super entrepreneurial. That's like kind of it always ate at me while I was working in these big corporate roles. But we have started other businesses. So Ali and I also started another business called The Man Bloom, which is actually very similar to Understory. But we both had full-time jobs. Neither of us could commit more than 10 hours a week, pretty much. And it failed. So that was the first business that we tried to start together. I've done a ton of little things that I've tried to do in the past. Literally any little thing you can think of that's entrepreneurial, I probably tried it. But Understory is the first one that's stuck, and it's the first one that we've been really able to commit to. And I think we're finally at an age and an experience level where we've been able to, bring some real value to people. And I think that's why we're doing so well now. But yeah, long story short, I have tried to start other things. This is the first one that's stuck.
That's exciting. I've been super fascinated by the agency world for the last, like maybe 4 weeks, just because we had Hunter Deskin on the podcast. I've had a couple other people, and I think it's like a really natural stepping stone for a lot of salespeople who can take a skill and then replicate it for other businesses. How did Understory start though? Because it sounds like you've obviously had some evolutions, but how did that actually start this go round?
Yeah. So my business partner actually started it. He had an opportunity to start being basically a freelancer. He specialized in paid media. He was an early employee at metadata.io, which is a pretty big ad tech company. They've done really well. And he was one of the first employees there. He got really into that. And eventually he just wanted to try, being a freelancer. He'd saved up some money and he was in a good position to do it himself. I mean, he tried the whole digital nomad thing. So he started Understory under the name Understory. And, he was doing pretty well for himself as a freelancer. And him and I had been friends for 10 years at this point. We grew up together. We went to high school together. And he had reached out to me and he was like, hey, this is what I'm doing, but I think I could really use your help to take it to the next level. I think there's so much more we could do that I'm basically just not doing. And obviously I was super fired up about it. He's a really smart guy. We've always had really, really, really good conversations. And our conversations are always just kind of a step above all my other friends. And because of that, I saw potential. and he's a super hard worker. So I said, oh, why not? I'll give it a shot. So he brought me in, and I was really just kind of doing sales consulting at the time for Understory and helping him land some more clients, structure contracts, and increase his customer service, basically. He had all the technical skills already, but he was lacking on the commercial side because that just wasn't his experience at the time. So that's kind of how I got in. And then, like I said, I was working another full-time tech sales job. So I didn't have a ton of time, but I contributed wherever I could. And because I was so fired up about it, I did end up working a lot of 80-hour weeks just to make it work because I was so, I was fired up. But that's kind of how it started. And then now it's evolved. And I finally had an opportunity for myself to go full-time. And since then, I mean, we 4x'd our revenue in the last 6 months because ultimately we both have the skills, but it took dedication. And since we've dedicated ourselves, we've started to see a lot of success, and we're soaking up information from the fire hose, and we're learning like crazy, and we're growing like crazy. But yeah, long story short, that's how it happened.
Well, and like from what I understand, you're more of the sales lead, right? And so you're able to pump a lot of the revenue through while Ali is building out paid media and other like more manual work, right?
Yes and no. So originally that's how it started. I'm just going to self-proclaim us both nerds because that's what we are. But Ollie and I are both pretty nerdy at heart, and we both really like getting into the weeds and learning the tools, learning the automations, how to use APIs, everything like that, right? So it started off with me doing most of the business development, and I still do lead that portion of the business. But Ollie definitely carries his weight, and he's he's worth his weight in gold, really. I couldn't do it without him. I really feel like we've built a really equal partnership, and fortunately, he's just as talented as I am. And yeah, I mean, now it's kind of we both do everything. He definitely leads the paid media side of the house, and I definitely lead the outbound side of the house. But we both lend a hand to each other a lot. And yeah, we lean on each other pretty heavily. It's a real partnership.
So, Alex, I'm really curious because there's a lot of different types of agencies out there. You have some that do pure content or copywriting agencies. You have people that do lead gen, website design, all sorts of different things. That's their skill set. It sounds like you guys do the end of the sales and marketing focus, but can you help me understand, just really simple, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we have a very unique approach, and this is what separates us, but we blend sales and marketing. So I'm sure you've seen this. You've been a rep at multiple companies, right? Tech sales. Sales and marketing are often misaligned. And that's an issue that we saw immediately. And it's something that he saw while he was in marketing. It's something I saw when I was in sales. So we bridged that gap. Is really how I'd like to put it. But we use similar lists, and we have a real omni-channel approach, right? So we're going from paid ads to email to LinkedIn outreach. We're using everything. We're reusing the same messaging, which most people don't do. If you go to these big tech companies and you see the marketing team and the sales team, they're totally disjointed. They're reaching out to different people. They're sending different messages. They're causing confusion in the marketplace about what their product does. We solve for that because we bring everything together and we have a unified approach. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, it's really helpful. I think that the conversion side is really important because what typically happens is because they have different objectives or they're sending different messaging, the conversion lacks because marketing might send something to a certain list of people, but the conversion is off, and then salespeople won't hit those same leads, and then the conversion is off again. But with you guys, you have paid media and all these different channels. Like, do you have one that's stronger than the other, or like how do you know which channels work?
This is what I'll say. I'll say we drive more traffic through paid ads. And that could be like traffic to a website. Our conversion rate for actual leads tends to be higher from email. And frankly, we get really strong conversion also from LinkedIn outreach. But paid ads is really, really, really a strong platform if you want to drive traffic to signups, white paper downloads, things like that, brand awareness, and top of funnel stuff. If you want more bottom of funnel leads, email is stronger. You get less leads from email, but the leads that you get tend to be higher quality, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
But
really, like, what makes you?
Well, I was just to say they both really complement each other. That's why most of our clients join both of them together with us. We started off with a lot of paid media clients, and then we shifted over to a lot of email clients, and now a lot of our clients are doing both. And those are the ones who see the strongest results.
Okay, so it sounds like you really have been able to blend the marketing and sales side of the house. And that's what makes you guys different is you're not just focusing on booking meetings like an outsourced SDR shop, and you're not just focusing on driving leads like a marketing agency. You're really trying to blend those two together. So that being said, who are some of your like ideal clients? What are the target customers for Understory?
Definitely tech companies, preferably SaaS companies. So we can work with services companies, but we really do well with SaaS. Both of us have a very strong background in SaaS. We understand the messaging, we understand the sales cycle, we understand the entire process really well. And we tend to do really well within that. SaaS also tends to be lower maintenance, right? Because when it comes to fulfillment, especially if it's like a self-serve SaaS company, right? It's very easy for someone to go to a sign-up page and sign up and convert. If you're working with a services company, you've got to convert to the right person to take that lead and then turn them into, more down funnel lead and then convert them into actual service. And it's just much harder to actually convert. Now, even when it comes to enterprise software, right, where it's not self-serve and you have to have a conversation with an actual rep and then, maybe take a demo with a solutions engineer, something like that. We also do really well with that because we understand the handoff process, and we also coach and consult with our clients as well on how to get that through the door and actually turn it into a lead that could potentially convert.
So are you actually booking any of these meetings, or are you just driving leads?
What do you mean by that?
Like, will people book meetings through the links that you send, or do you call any people on their behalf, or is it you're trying to drive these leads and then you'll have a salesperson from your customer's company reach out to them?
It varies by the way that we structure the contracts, but with paid ads, for example, we book a lot of calls through paid ads for our clients. We'll have direct call links on there. We'll have sign up forms, lead gen forms, things like that. When it comes to email, we try our best to refrain from putting links in the email, just from a deliverability standpoint. It's not the best practice.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally we do. So if someone says, if my CTA in an email is want to see it in action or something like that for a demo or something like that of the software, then I'll follow up with a calendar link that will lead directly to the rep that we're emailing on behalf of, things like that. So we do both.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends. We drive more calls through paid ads. We drive more interest and continued conversations through email, but we also do drive emails or drive calls through email as well.
That's awesome. And so you're working with SaaS companies. Do they ever outgrow you?
They haven't yet.
I guess you guys have only been around for like 2 years, and most of that growth's recent, but
I guess it could happen, but it really shouldn't, because ultimately, from a structure standpoint, we're very scalable, right? So we can, send from more inboxes. We can increase our send volume in terms of email. I automate a lot with Clay. And because I'm doing so much with Clay, I have the power to do what it would take 20, 30 reps to do, right?
For people listening to this, tell me what Clay is, because people are probably thinking you're talking about me.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about you. Different Clay, another great Clay. But no, this Clay is a software product. And in my opinion, it's the most powerful outbound tool around. You can do all kinds of different automations and enrichments. I was an early Clay expert, which has really helped us because I got really in with the Clay team and I learned a lot. And I've been able to do some awesome automations that save us a ton of time and drive extremely high quality conversions because of the level of personalization that we're able to achieve. Long story short, think about Clay as a tool to personalize content at scale, and it connects with just about any app you want it to. You can have native integrations via APIs that they have built in, and then you can write your own HTTP APIs, which make it super, it's just a diverse tool. You can really do anything with it. I know a guy who's automating things with Clay to like his wife's posts. He just made a post. Derek Noslowski, he's like the godfather of Clay, right? He likes his wife's posts with an automation that he created on Clay. So, you can use it for anything, to be honest with you. That's a really creative one. And he's super creative. But yeah, that's just one of the things you can do on it.
So did you use Clay when you were a sales rep? Is that where you developed that skill?
Well, I did, but I didn't use it at the company. So like I said, I was working on Understory already. So I was using Clay. But it's if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, it isn't expensive. But if you think about it as a sales rep at a company and you want to go up to your manager, right, and ask for a new tool, and they have to bring it to their boss and their boss and their boss, I didn't see the point in the bureaucracy and going through all that. So I never even tried. And I knew it was probably going to be a no because they're a private equity owned company and, budgets were always slim. So I did my best not to cause chaos internally, despite the fact that I had this entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to do all of these cool things that I knew would work for us, but I avoided that. But no, long story short, I wasn't using it at that company, but I was using it behind the scenes at Understory.
The reason I ask that is because I think salespeople in general just have this awesome experience at being sellers to develop a skill set that they can then transfer to another thing. And the cool thing with the agency model is that you're able to develop a skill set and then go market that under an agency. And so I was curious what kind of things you did as a rep that really prepared you for this. And so it sounds like becoming an expert in clay was definitely like a side hustle, skill building thing. But were there other things that you did during your time as a rep that put you ahead where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And the answer is absolutely. I don't think I would be half of where I am today if I didn't have the experience of being an enterprise sales rep, right? I learned so much about contract negotiation, how to deal with the C-suite of, some of the largest companies on planet Earth. I've closed deals with Cisco. I was working on deals with Facebook, Amway, like, multi-billion dollar companies. And yeah, that experience is everything because you learn how to talk to people that are just 20 years more experienced than you or are thinking on a totally different level in terms of how they would structure a contract, why they think the way they think. I learned a ton about buyer psychology. To be honest with you, I think I also learned a ton in my time at Procter & Gamble, which is very weird because it's totally, in a silo compared to what we do today in tech. But yeah, I started off selling soap. And when you think about it, when you're buying soap and you're in a grocery store, right? I sold home care products at Target, for example. So I was in charge of P&G's home care division at Target. So if you walked into a Target store and you see Mr. Clean, Dawn, Cascade, those brands, I was in charge of where they were positioned on a shelf and the merchandising that we were running in those stores at any given time. Big job for a young kid, to be totally honest with you. This contract's, hundreds of millions of dollars. But yeah, I learned a ton from that too, and just the way people think, shopper psychology. So like, a tactic that I learned there is good, better, best. When you're on the shelf and you're looking at things, you see something there might be 3 variations of Cascade, right? There's the good version, there's the better version, and there's the best version, and they're priced accordingly. Most people buy the middle tier because they want the better version, but they don't spend the money. And they would like to spend the money on the lowest version, but they don't want to be cheap. So most people go with the middle tier. And like that type of shopper psychology too carried over into everything else I do. And I try to carry all those experiences across what we do today, because even the way we package our pricing, I know most people aren't going to go with our premium tier. They're going to go with their middle tier. So I try to give them as much bang for their buck with our middle tier pricing. And that's stuff I learned from selling soap. So I think all of my experiences have led me to where I am today.
That's cool. I think that's a cool experience going from Procter & Gamble to tech and everywhere else that you've been. It's also interesting too that you've been able to go from these big companies to a startup. I know some people have a hard time going from a large company to a startup just because things are more so figured out. But obviously, like, you've been able to do things that help set you further ahead, right? And so, I guess this is really interesting. And so you work with SaaS companies. One of the things I was curious about as well is how do you set expectations with founders to make sure that like they're happy with the product that you deliver on?
Yeah, I think part of that is qualifying your clients too. We don't take on any clients. If you're not a good fit for Understory, we'll tell you to your face, and no hard feelings. It's just not the right fit. And I don't want you to spend your hard-earned money on a service that might not work for you, right? I won't take on a client if I'm not confident we can deliver results. Don't get me wrong, I love a good challenge, and I'll happily take on a challenge. I just took one on literally yesterday, and I'm very excited about it. But at the same time, like, if you come to us and you're, selling cleaning services to corporations, we're not the right fit for you. And I'll tell you that to your face. I don't care if you throw, $50,000 at us a month. It's just not the right fit. It's not a good use of our time. It's not within our skill set. So does that answer your question? I think qualification is pretty critical.
Yeah, that's a good answer, because I've done some consulting in the past, and I feel like that's the hardest thing, at least. And I've even talked to other people that run agencies, and I feel like that's something that they learn early on is trying to understand what are deliverables that they can be really good at and things that just are out of your control, and being able to find people that align with that
Yep.
is really important. Um, Another topic I'd love to explore with you, Alex, and we were chatting about this prior, is how you've been able to leverage LinkedIn. I think that this is a very underutilized skill as far as like free marketing for growing your business. But yeah, could you just like tell me a little bit about how you've been able to like leverage your personal brand to grow your business?
Yep. Absolutely. So it's discipline. And there's a few guys out there that have done a really good job of this. I know we were talking about Troy Munson, but Troy Munson, in my opinion, in the modern LinkedIn era, he's done a great job setting an example. So, he'll even tell you exactly how he thinks about it. But really what you need to do is find a topic that you're passionate about and that you know a lot about and that you have experience working in every day. For me, that's sales, marketing, lead gen, enterprise deals, things like that, right? So that's what I post about. And I post about them because I'm passionate about them. And I like to think I know a good bit about them because I've done it quite a bit and I've had a lot of success doing it. So I post about that. And then I also post about tools that I'm passionate about, like Clay. Once again, I'm passionate about you, but I'm talking about the tool here. But yeah, like Clay, for example, I started posting about Clay way before I ever met anybody from Clay because I was just blown away by the capabilities in that tool. And I think that passion and the authenticity bleeds through and people see it. And then they have questions for you and you get a ton of what we call inbound leads from it, right? So, hey, I'm super fascinated by Clay too, but I have no idea how to use it. It's a complex tool. Teach me something. So you get on a call, sure enough, they find out, wow, you're the exact fit they were looking for the whole time. Boom, there's a new client for you. Things like that. But I mean, yeah, I've used LinkedIn pretty organically just because I was excited to post on a platform. I've never really been a big Instagram guy, or I don't even have Twitter. I don't have any of those. I don't have TikTok. I don't have any of those, right? So I wanted an outlet,
Yeah.
but I've always wanted like a professional outlet. I feel like I've always kind of resonated in both with people too, which is kind of weird, but I just have. And there tends to be more of those on LinkedIn. And people are serious, ambitious people who you're going to have good conversations with and who help you level up in life and get better. So that's kind of why I started posting on LinkedIn. And then it turned into, now I have a personal brand where people really follow me. I'll get messages where people will say like, hey, I'm so excited to meet you. And I'm humbled by it because, I'm just the same guy I've always been, but now people are actually reaching out to me and they really want to pick my brain. They want to learn from me. I become a thought leader and that's cool. And it just kind of happened by accident. So
I don't know if you would be comfortable like giving a percentage, but like, how much of your business at Understory would you say is influenced from your LinkedIn brand?
A lot. I don't know the exact percentage. I should probably know that number off the top of my head, but a lot. I mean, we're getting inbound leads every single week from my posts on LinkedIn or my business partner Ali's posts on LinkedIn. And we're really just posting tips, tricks, and things we're passionate about. And that's kind of how it happens. But yeah, I mean, we're also obviously sending our own cold email campaigns. We run our own ads. We preach what we sell, right? We actually live by what we're actually selling to. We do get leads from those as well. So we kind of have leads coming in from multiple different funnels. But yeah, that's done really, really well for us. And then, I have my calendar link on my LinkedIn page, and I get random bookings on my calendar all the time to the point where I have to weed them out. If they're not qualified, I don't have time for it. I have to like literally weed people out sometimes, which is a great problem to have. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting how that's become such a strong source of lead generation for us.
I think it's the thing that's really interesting about LinkedIn compared to TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube is on TikTok, somebody can get like 10 million followers instantly, like within months, right?
Yep.
Like you just post one viral clip and you get tons of followers, but there's not a lot of impact, right? It's just like
low intent. It's low intent.
It's low, yeah. But LinkedIn is so interesting because the engagement is really, really high. Like you could have 5,000 followers, but you can have a really like almost cultish following where people are constantly engaged or DMing. I think that's something that people don't understand about LinkedIn is it's not always about getting tons of likes or impressions or followers, right? A lot of it is just in creating those like micro communities and those people that care about the content that you're sharing. And that's how you get those DMs. Because I post pretty regularly on LinkedIn about the podcast and things I'm learning and stuff like that. I would by no means say I'm an expert, but I'm trying to learn. And so that's what I share is conversations I have or things I'm trying to learn. And I think that people find LinkedIn as a really good BS meter, because if you see a post or you get a DM that is really fake or automated, it just gets filtered out really quick. And so I think that's why on LinkedIn it's so impressive when people can build an audience, because you can't build an audience on LinkedIn being fake. Like, people just see through it really quick. It takes a lot of micro connections and meeting with people and stuff like that. And so I really think that that's where LinkedIn can change your professional career, is through all those connections that you're making. It's almost like weird to think about, because in our parents' generation, they would like go out and have lunch with people. Even in college, like I would try and have lunch with people. But like today, it's like half my friends I meet are on the internet.
Yeah,
Like, you live in
it's a crazy
Georgia,
thing.
and like we're having just this conversation like normal,
I
right?
know, it's a crazy thing. And you made a great point there too, and it's actually funny you mentioned that about like people using AI to write posts, things like that, right? We actually have a company-wide policy. It's funny. We have a couple of funny company-wide policies, but that's one of them. Is if you're going to post on LinkedIn, there's absolutely no AI allowed. You're not allowed to use AI to write anything that you post on LinkedIn. And Ali and I have stated that because we see all of those posts and they just make us cringe. It's like you can just tell it's fake and it's just clickbait, right? It's all it is clickbait. There's no good content. You're not learning anything. And you can see when there's like, certain emoji patterns you can notice, or like the way the post is structured, certain words, things like that. And yeah, because of that, and Ali we send them back and forth. We're petty like that. We'll send them back and forth to each other. And you see this one, you see that one. But yeah, we have a no AI policy when it comes to posting on LinkedIn, and we're big proponents of AI. We love AI, but no, not for LinkedIn.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've been really curious about finding ways to implement AI in LinkedIn posts, because I've seen a lot of people. I follow Dickie Bush. I don't know if you know who that is.
I don't.
Dude, he's got the most amazing content. I don't know why more people don't follow him, but he uses AI for a lot of his copy, and he'll use like frameworks and say, "Hey, he'll feed in 10 posts into his AI and say, "Hey, I would like to write a post. Can you write me 3 posts in this format?" And then it gives him a bunch of ideas, and then he'll just go in and like fix it. And so I'm trying to figure out how I can use more stuff like that. And I'm sure you guys use that in your copywriting for emails or paid
So
media and
when it comes
stuff.
to email, we use AI heavily. I mean, you know,
Do you
like I
use it
said,
in the same way, like having frameworks, like you'll feed in frameworks and then
to an extent. So I've gotten really good at prompt writing within Clay through a variety of different LLMs. There's actually a guy named Brandon Charlison who is awesome when it comes to using different LLMs, and he's really good at prompting all of them. That's kind of his thing. He can write APIs that'll connect it pretty much every LLM to Clay. But I've gotten pretty good at using GPT-4 in particular. But I use different things I don't even know if I'd call it a framework, but I set rules in place for what I do in Clay. And those rules will be consistent across pretty much every table I build. The way I like things written, the way I like things structured, in terms of punctuation, all kinds of stuff like that. I've gotten really good at using that and getting it it'll never be perfect. It's definitely not right now, at least. But for the most part, pretty perfect. And I wouldn't necessarily say I'm using frameworks, but there's just certain things I've learned along the way on how the AI actually communicates with what you're putting into it. And to be totally transparent, the best thing is just quality inputs. Quality inputs produce quality outputs. And if you spend time learning how the LLMs think and how they react to the words you put in, you get really good results.
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm probably like a lot of people where I have not learned how to use the AI, but I do think it's really important to understand copywriting principles or copywriting rules
Oh,
that
absolutely. Yeah.
can translate, just so you understand what good looks like, because the AI doesn't mean anything if you don't know what good looks like. So it's really important to become a master of the craft on that, so that when you do work with AI, you can be the master of it instead of whatever it's sending you.
Yeah. And I should clarify too, we're not writing entire emails with AI. I think you get weird, wonky results that way. And I know people who do it and get actually pretty strong results in terms of response rates, meetings booked, things like that. We don't do that. We use AI to create variables, and then we waterfall those variables into manually written email structure. So like I'll write out structure and I'll have blanks, and I'll use AI to populate, personalize basically blanks, right? So it could be, any level of personalization you can think of, that might be one of the blanks. And then I waterfall it on top of each other over and over and over again into a structure that I create manually. And then I'll just rinse and repeat over and over and over again for a company. And then I'll create a new table for them. And yeah, I get creative with each table, but within each table, I can rinse and repeat. And I'll write every single email manually for Understory. So
Wow, that's gotta be a lot of work.
it is, but because of the automations that we have in place, it's a lot of work up front, 1 or 2 times, and then you adjust every, month, every 3 weeks, every month and a half, whatever the cadence is that you adjust. But you also need some time to see what sequences are working, right? You shut off a sequence after a week. You know if it really worked or not, or were you just also targeting the wrong list? Things like that. Were you emailing people on spring break? Yeah, there's a lot of different variables to go into it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alex, it's been really fun having you on here. I get fired up about some of the conversations we're having and excited to have more of them. Just to send you off, I have one last question. People listening to this podcast are tech account executives or they're field reps, been selling for 4 or 5 years. They want to start a business. If you had 30 seconds to give them one piece of advice about starting a business, what would it be?
You know more than you think you do, and you need to be confident. Just take the jump. If you can do 2 things at once, try it, have a consistent income. But at the same time, you'll never know if you're really capable of doing something until you give it your all. So take the jump, try it. Worst case scenario, you can go back to another job and have a great life. But, if you have that fire burning inside and you really want to start something, you're going to regret it if you don't. So just take the jump.
Love it. Thanks, Alex.
Yep.